Bay Radio International, just coming up to 12 minutes past 4, mainland Spain, and every other Wednesday we talk to the Alicante lawyers.es, Peter and Heredia, and Ignacio is with us this afternoon. How are you doing, friend?
Yeah, very good, very good. Ready for your questions.
Well, there are plenty of things going on legally with to do with not just the Spanish government, but across Spain, lots of different things that are happening. And in this afternoon, we will look at extradition cases, something you're dealing with right now, and of course look at the webinar from last week, the Modelo 720, and next week's, which will be the final one on the golden visa. It seems like it's been forever. But first off, let's look at a couple of those cases that have been making the headlines, not just in Spain but worldwide. Luis Rubiales yesterday in court saying that he is totally sure that Jenni Hermoso gave his consent to the kiss, the former president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation. This is being closely followed and watched around the world. It's not really about football, but it's about what the judge will decide in Spain as to whether a kiss is sexual assault, and indeed the other charge was she coerced into trying to support him in saying that she did give him permission. Now, of course, she's been in the dock. He's been in the dock. We didn't get any results yesterday. You reckon it's going to be like a 10-day, 14-day trial, something like that?
Yeah, this is a good question. We really don't know how much time the judge will need to run through all the evidence that they bring.
Lots of people have been in and out of court.
A lot of them. And at the end of the day, Carl, you need to understand here, the bottom of the case is about a kiss, whether there was consent or not. The only way to look at it is going through all the evidence from prior events or prior that time and after that time, because there is no any other further evidence. Obviously, the cameras that day, and he still support that camera that day just catch that she did not reject it, because she could have rejected the case as well. So his argument now, Rubiales is saying, his intention to prove here is that everything was consent, and then he provided the necessary evidence to pretty much, like, the burden of proof is not on his side, is like,
prove me wrong.
Yes, prove me wrong. And to be honest, it's only that. And then you said the second crime is duress, I think you called
coercion, trying to get her to say afterwards that everything was agreed.
I did not, but I'm really fun.
I mean, it's sexual assault, really, the first one. The crime of sexual assault is that's what he's being tried for.
Yes.
So, this will establish in Spain that a kiss could be sexual assault, which is... Yeah. When you think that a lot of greetings are two kisses, then that's going to be a problem, isn't it?
Well, I think it's more about it's hard to say. It's hard to say what it's all about.
I mean, the discussions that go on in the bar about this, there are people on both sides, obviously.
Yeah. To be honest with you, and I know I can only talk to you about from a technical point of view.
Yeah, it's got to be from the legal.
Yeah, from a legal angle. And the case is simple, because whether it was given consent or not, because at the end of the day, kissing somebody is not a crime, is just whether it was an aggression or without her consent. That's the whole point of it. Now, would the evidence be good enough for the judge to understand that was against her wishes or not?
There must be more than just the one angle. There are lots of cameras, lots of filming.
Yeah, no, the filming is right, but the judge is looking at the previous act and the after scenario. So the after scenario, they're saying that she didn't give too much notice. She didn't give too much importance of that event. It was because of something that happened afterwards is what initiated the denuncia, and the purpose of it, I really don't know whether it's more in or out. I really don't know what was the relationship with him before, because it could have been a relationship between them. But the judge, obviously, as Pedro said the other day, Rubiales has the right to stay silent, to say the truth, or not to say even a piece of truth.
You mean lie? He
Lie.
could lie if he wants
could
to.
lie because...
So what happened to... I remember the right to remain silent. I remember that one. But I think it did shock me the other day when Pedro said that. And of course, you don't really generally think about things like, the right to lie.
Yeah, but that is as an accused party, not as a witness.
Okay.
You are not allowed to lie as a witness. So the rest of the witness it should... you take it for granted that they're saying the truth, because otherwise it's perjury. Right? But Rubiales could say whatever. Rubiales could say, well, she was my girlfriend. He could say whatever might make sense. But the truth of the case, and whenever the sentence is held, we could have a chat here and read it all through. Even though it will never be the last sentence, because they could appeal. They could appeal. Mm-hmm. Right? But the judge might take into consideration everything together and the immediate way of answering. So that's very, very intuitive or interactive.
And why is it just a judge, not a judge and jury?
Right. Juries in Spain are not very common and are only on specific cases, right? There is a law of jury, okay? But it's not the common practice here in Spain, okay? In this case, probably, she did start the denuncia, right, for not domestic violence, but similar, like aggression, yeah? And they are whatever you add. But another thing you will like to hear is that denouncing is free. Mm-hmm. Lying is free, denouncing is free. At the end of the day, I could always say my version, and it's a matter of evidence. That's why I always say to everyone, not only with regards to tax inspections, or with you keep your evidence. Make sure you keep your evidence, because that's all really matters, you see. We'll get back to the extradition side of it. It's all about evidence again. So whether Rubiales has a theory, whether it's true or not, Carl, you and me, we don't know. Nobody knows. But at the end of the day, you could have a case of saying, well, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, and this is my version.
So that's all to do with the kiss. In the other part of the case, he defended himself against the accusation of coercion. He denied that he put pressure on the player or sent someone to speak to her family to get her to agree to make a video with him saying that she consented to the kiss. So this is where you're saying there's quite a lot that goes on after the fact.
On and after. Yeah. And that's what the judge is going to say, okay, how could I know whether it was true or not? Through the evidence, previous evidence and ongoing evidence. And, I could be wrong, but you could call it something different. But calling it a crime, I find it hard to believe that he's going to be convicted for that.
For sexual assault or coercion?
Correct. I don't...
For either?
Yeah. I don't... for sexual assault... If he's able to have all this evidence very well organized and aligned, unless you could prove that this is wrong, I find it difficult to believe. Are
there any cases where people have been convicted of sexual assault for a kiss?
No.
You see?
Yeah.
So, the judge has got quite a difficult thing on his hands.
That's why we need to play simple here. Okay, and how
simple facts.
Yes, simple facts. Correct. How do you play that? Obviously, witnesses before, attitude during, before, and after, and witnesses after, and then the only one who can make their mind with all the evidence on the table is the judge to say, well, was not consent, or yes, it was a good relationship. He kissed, she was okay.
Well, effectively, he was her boss, which is what she said in her evidence.
Yeah,
so
there is a lot of arguments in pro and con, obviously, but what is really, you could say whatever you want to say afterwards, Carl, but what is obvious is your attitude, prior and after.
Right.
Because otherwise, everybody could start suing for everyone and giving kisses, and because of saying this and the other. So, how does a judge value a case? Only because of the evidence. What kind of evidence he's got? He's got all the witnesses, and then she's got her own witnesses as well. Okay, actually, I didn't. I'm very fond of watching the videos of all these trials. You see. I've been following very much the one with David Sanchez.
Yes, this is
that's another one that
we talked about this, didn't we, briefly?
Yeah.
And the Prime Minister's brother, who was the accusation was that he was given a position that perhaps he would not have got otherwise had he not been the Prime Minister's brother. And as we mentioned, this is a number of cases that are up against not just the Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, but his wife, other members of his family or his entourage, or former ministers or current ministers, all to do with Pedro Sanchez, and of course this Manos Limpias body who are making all these accusations. Ultimately, it's an attempt to bring down the government.
Well, let me tell you one thing, and this is what everybody could just double check this information. Manos Limpias, I think, started the case, but the whole thing was started by Podemos. Mm-hmm. So Podemos is the far left wing. Mm-hmm. Whether it was any politics between PSOE and them, I really don't know, because you know how politics work. But that it was all created or started by Podemos. Then
which is strange, isn't it? Because Manos Limpias, I just checked to make sure, but they're extreme right.
Yes. Yeah. But probably Podemos far left.
More in common than...
I mean, at the end of the day, what it is. Whether he's left or right, to be honest, is irrelevant.
I mean, ultimately, the Prime Minister's brother's resigned from that post now.
Yes.
But does that mean...
Which I'm surprised.
Does that mean it's over?
No.
It's not.
The case still carries on. Yeah, obviously. And the reason why he resigned was because no company wanted to bid on the for doing the job for Diputación de Badajoz. So no orchestras or companies wanted to work with them, with all these... Which I could understand, because, I'm going to do, he's going to be in the middle, and then I'm going to have to witness, and then...
Right.
So he had no clients. He had no orchestra companies interested to deal with him. Which I could understand, because you don't want any issues.
Can't do your job if nobody wants to do the job with you.
But the judge in Badajoz is so good. This lady is brave. And I did just listen the whole cross-examination to understand, because at the end of the day, the best way to know and to have your own opinion is to judge yourself. No anybody telling you. Just watch it. So I said, well, I'm going to watch the whole trial. Well, not the whole trial. Just his cross-examination. Then I did watch the three buddies of cross-examinations of David. And you could test, that's what I'm telling Carl, you could test whether it is a crime or not is something, but you could say that something is wrong here, I mean, you are the boss, but you're not really the boss. Nobody pretty much saw you at work. You were working in Portugal.
He had, what did you call it, pretty much open hours to come and go as he might choose, according to one part of evidence from the...
And then you're in Portugal, you pay taxes in Portugal. Tax office makes a report saying that there is no any legal issue. And to be honest, we all have inspections through the tax office. Actually, we're dealing ourselves with one through us because they want to check the accounts. So, and then a severe report from a tax office is not inspecting them. So the whole thing, Carl,
the whole thing wrong somewhere.
I mean, he's not like you and me. He's somebody else. Let's put it this way. And but the judges in Spain, they're being very brave because.
Well, these are right at the top end of government.
Correct.
The issue is right at the top of government because ultimately that the target is Pedro Sanchez.
And a judge knows that these are kind of worms for them because they're going to treat the case exactly the same as if it was you or me, any citizen, but the repercussion and her consequences is completely different, And I remember, I don't know if I was talking to judges or say, every time something like this happens and fails into the desk of a judge is a problem.
Well, just go to another one that we talked about last week, the Attorney General, unprecedented in Spanish legal history, that an Attorney General would have to appear in court. But the judge in that, Judge Hurtado, is now being reviewed by the Supreme Court for investigating the Attorney General. And also, as part of that case, the Attorney General, it's alleged, deleted his WhatsApp messages the day the judge opened the case against him.
Yeah, you see,
it's a can of worms.
But at the end of the day, we are in exactly in the same case that we spoke. I mean, whether you and me know that he did it is one thing. Whether he's going to be guilty or not, that's a different one. I mean, you could smell, Carl. You could smell, say, well, this is not really right. But then if you don't have the right evidence to prove, I mean, you deleted, okay, but there is no track. So there is there is no evidence that proves that you've done it. So how do you, unless somebody says, oh, you've done it, I've seen you, and things like that, unless you have brave witnesses to say, what else do you have, Cole? You don't have much.
This is all, that case is all to do with the alleged leaking of evidence or leaking of information about the Madrid president's partner, the boyfriend of Isabel Díaz Ayuso, Alberto González Amador, who, it's worth noting, has been called to court on a number of occasions to give his own evidence, but keeps on finding reasons to delay because he's trying to hang on while the other case gets sorted out. And if the Attorney General is perhaps, I don't know what you do with the Attorney General if they've done something wrong, but whatever it is the judge decides could then have an effect, of course, on his own case, right?
So, to be honest with you, it's two different completely cases, but from a politic point of view, is who falls first.
Yeah.
You see? That's a politic battle, you see? But we all lawyers, we understand the strategies they're doing.
But there's also time limits, isn't there? So there's a limitation. The deadline for González Amador to appear is March. So if he doesn't by March, then what is it? Not out of statute, but what happens? Can he then be dragged to court?
Yes, the judge could order to be. It's like arrest warrant. Yeah, you call it that way. Yeah, arrest warrant all throughout. Wow. And then he should. But let me tell you one thing here, Carl. Okay, tax office. Right, tax office, things one way, you think different way, and then it could be, I mean, nothing is white or black. Sometimes it is down to interpretation and down to evidence. What happened? Something I would have never done it, but anyway, for what reason it was put on writing, the offer, because you could always settle out of court, and you could always send an email, which I wouldn't do. Why? You understand now why. Saying, okay, let's reach an agreement. It doesn't mean you have committed. It means, okay, I cannot defend it. I will accept. It's like drinking and driving. I have different cases like that. Sometimes it's easier, better, cheaper, and better for the client to settle out of court and say, yes, I've done it. That's it.
Actually, that's just changing as well, isn't it? To pretty much no drink and drive. So it's very, very, very small amounts. That's going to change.
But what I'm trying to say here, Carl, is that it's just the way lawyers talk to the other. Yeah. So apparently the lawyer from this guy sent an email to the public prosecutor to try to settle an agreement, instead of if I need to pay 4 years prison because I didn't pay the VAT or whatever, then I could agree on 2 years, which means I will not enter into prison.
Yeah, because 2 year sentence, you don't go to jail.
You don't get to jail if it's the first time. Right. So, and that was used against Ayuso. Mm-hmm. So obviously the whole politics started the war. She did denounce the the prime public prosecutor, the general,
Attorney
General, and now he's going faster that case than the other one because of jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And then all about the timing is about the game.
Right. Wow. And do you know what? Ultimately, I'm not quite sure what the average man and woman or whatever you want to be in the streets would say about this, because surely you want your politicians to be concentrating on things that matter, that help the country, rather than this infighting and this constant battle between the different political parties to try and, get into government or bring down the government. And that's what seems to be happening. Seems to be concentrating on that and taking up the court's time time doing that rather than just getting on with the business of running the country.
Yeah.
Which I think most people would prefer, right?
That will be sensible. Yeah, that will be sensible. And but again, I think we shouldn't, all of us, complain just on a daily basis. We should complain when we vote. And when we vote is the time we should really scream and say, that's what I think. Now, sometimes the problem is you don't know who to vote.
I was going to say, who do you vote for? And, we've seen that happen, some protest voting going on in parts of the world, and then you end up perhaps with who nobody wants. So,
nobody wants. It's a difficult one, isn't it?
It really is. But thanks for kind of explaining through some of those current cases. There are others, obviously. Going on in Spain at the moment, some quite high-profile ones as well. Yeah. But we'll endeavour to keep an eye on them and explain what's happening in them. The Modelo 720 was the subject of the webinar last week. The information available on your website, easily found at alicantelawyers.es. So just in a couple of short questions and answers then, who is obligated to submit a 720 form?
Right. As a reminder, for those who couldn't make it to watch the webinar, it is already in our live TV page in our website. So I know payutheralia.com is difficult to pronounce for them, but alicantelawyers.es is easier. So it is the same domain. So they could watch it back, okay? But making it very simple, if you are tax resident in Spain, let's talk about 2024, okay? If your only is pertinent or eligible for residents, okay, whether you're European or non-European is irrelevant. Residents in Spain in 2024. Right. Do you have assets abroad over 50,000 euros? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Where? Bank accounts, jointly or individually? Okay. Then you need to disclose that information. Doesn't mean paying taxes, means disclosing information. Block number 2, investment. Shares, dividends, any probably private pensions that you could take now. Okay, over 50,000 euros, you need to disclose it. Doesn't mean you will end up paying taxes. It's just that you have a potential income coming in the future, hopefully. Number 3, you have property. Okay, property purchase price, over 50,000 euros purchase price. Okay, probably you bought it a long time ago. It was £30,000. Then but you don't comply. No, but you don't comply because at the time purchase price was that, so you don't need to comply with it. Okay, fine. Now, how about if you already did lodge the 720? Do you need to do it ever again? No, you only do it if you had an increase on values on 20,000 euros.
So if that changed in the past year?
Yes. If you did have that increase. Now, if you lost money, you don't need to update it. You only need to update it if you had a profit or an income or an increase of 20,000 euros on any of each block, or if you cancel the product. For example, you close bank accounts, you cancel products because you wind up or because you sold the property. So for those who sold the property, they should update the 720 and do their income tax return. But 720 is from January to March. Every year.
There is still time.
Still time. We're still in time not to panic. But there is something I recommend them doing to put it in the same tray and table when you do your taxes. Okay? Again, with the evidence. I need to update this, and then I do it. So if you update it properly, now is the right time for you to update that if you sold the property. And obviously have all the information, income, expenses, sale value, and from the net figure, you will know you'll have to pay eventually from April to the end of June, the tax. Okay? So that's with regards to 720. Now, fines are not that high as they used to be, as you know, but still some fines if you fail. Okay? I always recommend clients to seek independent legal advice and tax advice. Why? Because that's really the way for you to put it right or for you to know your strategy. We've been talking here about legal battles and things like that. Tax office is always after money, as you know, and you need to know how to put it right or just defend your strategy. At the end of the day, That's really important. Okay. So, as I said, Carl, 720 is not a scary thing. It's for you to understand it. And you're still on time to do it. And it's important you know how it works and what affects.
Is it easy for somebody to fill out and submit themselves?
Not really.
It's not, is it?
Not really. I'm not sure if now, I think now it's possible for clients to do it themselves. But one of the rules in the tax office, you don't want to open can of worms, do you?
No, not at all.
And then if you do it incorrectly, you're going to have issues. And they're going to, because it's all red flags, isn't it? It's data that you didn't put it this right, you didn't put that right.
And it drags on.
And at the end of the day, I do not recommend clients to do it themselves, even though if they're knowledgeable, they could go and try to do it. I don't know whether the tax office will offer that service as well for you to arrange an appointment and do it with them. I haven't heard it. I haven't seen it. Okay, probably they have done it already. I mean, they have updated, but in the old days, nobody could update the 720. Which I consider is right,
most expats who don't have a fantastic grasp of Spanish, it's probably just better, to go.
It will be always cheaper.
Yeah. Okay.
Than trying to do yourself, and because at the end of the day, lodging the 720 shouldn't be complex if your case is not complex.
And coming up on next Wednesday's, we call it the webinar, yes?
Yeah.
Is the Golden Visa in Spain. Now, we've been hearing about this for a long time, that it's finished. It's finished on the 3rd of April, right?
That's correct.
So people can still apply, and people have been.
Yes, and we've been doing so far, and Carmen from our office is very, very busy.
You've had clients from Bay Radio coming to you and saying,
that's right.
We can still do it, let's do it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you learn so many stories, Carl, that unfortunate is say, why you didn't come before, you know? And that's what we're doing next webinar. Next webinar we're doing on Tuesday instead of Wednesday.
It's Tuesday, okay.
But we're changing slightly.
What time will it be?
5 o'clock. Right. And the reason is because Wednesday we cannot make it. So at the end of the day, we just swap and change according to our diaries.
Okay.
But yes, it's last call for Golden Visa applicants or investor visa. If anybody who wants to come over here with this visa, which I consider to be the best visa, because you could work, you could do anything. You could be tax resident.
You can come and go, which is really what people want to do, right?
And especially if you have a budget and you're already going to spend that money, or alternatively, for example, let's call the Americans probably are is a mentality. Probably they buy less properties than the British or the Spanish. We're more of the cultural thing about buying. The Americans, sometimes they don't buy, they just rent. Okay, it's more common for them. But however, they have investment.
Yeah, if you have the assets.
And they have the investment. If you have over €1 million, the only thing you need to do is transfer it into an international fund that really gives you that umbrella. So it will be a Spanish ISIN number, right, with international funds. So you can still invest on whatever you have invested in the past, any Americans funds, anything around the world, but under a Spanish umbrella.
I see.
If you still do that, you still could apply for it, only based on that. And to be honest, we could get that sorted in 10 working days. I mean, the financial advisor that we're using to give them independent advice says 8 days is good enough to open an account.
That's amazing. That's so quick.
It's quick. And it's only about the investment, okay? Not all the investment qualifies, so they need to be under a Spanish umbrella. Now, once you are inside that umbrella, you could choose whatever fund you like. For example, if we're doing an example for international wealth management, they shop around all the international funds, which is great in a way because you choose the product, but you do it under a Spanish umbrella. So I really think that's very good. And And now, for those who said, no, I'm going to buy a property, just hurry up because we're in February.
That can take a little bit longer. And, of course, the deadline being the 3rd of April.
But some of them are halfway, you see. But to be honest with you, for those who've got the investments, obviously, we need to work out whether it's tax efficient or not. That's a different story, but we can still work on it. You don't need to cash, in some cases, Carl, you don't need to cash your investments. But the financial advisor needs to understand and study whether you could transfer it without cashing. That's great, because if you already invest that money, transferring it is not going to cost you from a tax point of view. Then you are a no tax resident here, so obviously you don't pay taxes here. If you don't pay in the US, that's great. And then you get your golden visa. And then you need to keep the investment. Doesn't matter whether it grows or goes down, but you keep your golden visa. And if you put in your name, wife or husband or dependent will benefit from it as well. So I think that's the fastest. Now, if you already invested money on property or you need to top up to 500,000 euros, it might take a little bit more. But we're more than prepared to do very last minute job, you know. But yes, Carl, we're doing a lot of them. And we are on a daily basis in contact with Madrid head office for Golden Visa, making questions. And because you never get the yes or no. There is always grey areas. For example, I have a property and I'm building, but I don't have all the paperwork yet. Could I submit it now? You see,
and as we've always said, you know, everybody's case is different. So you throw up all of these different things, and you don't always have the immediate answer on paper, do you?
No, and you want them to commit themselves, Carl.
Of course, you want to see it. Yeah, you've got to see that the tax officer said that. You know?
So, hey, that's it.
Cool. Okay.
So hurry up for those who are still in process for that.
But plenty more next Tuesday then, 5 o'clock on AlicanteLawyers.es.
Correct.
The very last webinar on golden visas. Well, as it stands.
Yeah.
You know, so you never say never.
You just never say, especially with politics, yeah. But yes, 3rd of April, the very last day for us to submit it on your behalf. I really think it's worth it trying. Even if you still don't have everything, let's go for it. I'm more of the opinion to give a try. You have nothing to lose. And then obviously after that, you could always renew it according to the previous law. So that is beneficial as well, because you could renew it, not with the new law, with the previous law.
Okay. Right. Everything we've been talking about today, the Model 720 and the golden visas, are on the AlicanteLawyers.es website. You can get in contact with Ignacio and the team from there, or indeed watch that webinar next Tuesday, 5 o'clock on the golden visa. There's still time.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
Well, I'll tell you, but not probably today, I'll tell you a case about extradition.
Okay. Yeah, we were going to do that. We got sidetracked by all the current law cases going on in Spain.
But we'll tell you these probably in 2 weeks' time, yeah?
All right. Yeah, well, obviously, we'll when we can wrap up that case we were talking about at the beginning, when the judge makes his final decisions on the Rubiales case.
Yeah, that will be interesting as well. And the other one.
Yeah, and the other one about the Attorney General.
And the many. We could be here. The whole year we'll be commenting all these things.